Well, that's
Call the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and to see a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Thank you, everyone. First item we have is approval
Mr.
of
Mayor,
this.
Pro Tem, I would like to make a privilege motion.
What would that be, Counselor?
A censure motion to censure you, which I have the right to do based on Robert's Rules of Order. Seeing as we do not have an additional temporary leader of this governing body in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, it is incumbent upon me, as the maker of the motion, to serve as the chair for the purpose of this motion. Is there a second?
I will second.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, based upon your actions on your part, I move the following resolution to censure Commissioner and Mayor Pro Tem John Abrams. Whereas he has acted in an unprofessional manner, repeatedly being obnoxious, rude, and arrogant towards members of this governing body and the public. And whereas his actions and demeanor create a hostile and oppressive environment. And whereas he has repeatedly denied commissioners and councilors to the right to make motions and debate, refused to entertain points of order and proper appeals, recognized only those who have upheld his views and denied the opposition the right to speak. And whereas he has exceeded the authority of the position he holds on multiple occasions, and whereas he has followed his personal opinion and belief rather than this body's adopted rules of order, and whereas he has sought to hide useful information from the governing body by refusing the floor to an elected member of the governing body, and whereas he has inappropriately and without authority ordered the ejection of an elected member of the governing body, me, from a commission meeting, and whereas he has violated the town's operating procedures and state law requiring governing body authorization before taking an action on the said town. And whereas he has unilaterally canceled regular scheduled meetings of the governing body without prior approval of the governing body. And whereas he has violated the town's operating procedures and long-standing practice of allowing elected officials to add items to regular and special governing body meeting agendas. And whereas he has impeded the routine operations and long-standing practices of this commission by refusing to allow individual items to be removed from the consent agenda for discussion, which prohibits any other items being approved unnecessarily. And whereas he has failed to follow the general meeting practices utilized by the town of Edgewood since its inception, that have provided for general public comment and commissioner comment periods at all regular meetings of the governing body. And whereas such conduct is highly detrimental to the reputation and operation of the town of Edgewood, now therefore be it resolved that Mayor Pro Tem John Abrams is formally censured for these acts. Mr. Abrams, you may participate in the discussion but cannot vote on the matter. Is there anybody who would like to speak on my motion? Discuss it. Councilor Hogmeal, you second?
Discussion, yes. Your list covered a lot of different areas, and I know I completely disagree with what happened at the last meeting, and many of the things that are on your list really prohibits the governing body from moving forward in a constructive manner. So my concerns as well with Abrams and Holly as well voting with Abrams to suppress public comment, to suppress or remove your right to represent the public. I do agree that's a very, very serious problem. It impacts our reputation as a town. It's not constructive, and it's not going to help anyone move forward. What's also concerning is the commission manager and the form of government that we are now under, according to state statute. There are many, many things that need to be accomplished. And, you know, I've been asking for months now for these items to be on the agenda so that we can just discuss them and give information to the public and move forward in a constructive manner. Yet, that's just being throttled and denied and ignored. And I do find that to be despicable. I do not believe that that is constructive in the least bit, to deny the public's requests, or as elected officials, our requests, along with many other illegal things that you mentioned and really unethical things. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Commissioner Holly?
I had no idea this was coming up tonight, but Councilor Jaramillo just mentioned illegal things. I don't believe anything that we've done here is illegal. And I don't find us functioning much different than we have in the past. I think our biggest problem is that we do not have a fully functioning body with 5 members like we should. And this is a problem we have with not being able to make decisions. That's all I've got to say.
Commissioner Abrams?
As far as I know, we are all still councilors. The vote to change the form of government will change that form of government as of the election that will happen in this fall, and as of the moment that the new elected officials take office in January. It's interesting that you're continuing to push that when we have business at hand here. The lack of decision of the council has been bothering me for quite some time, Council. And as far as the actions that I took with regard to the sale of the town hall, it is my opinion, and I said this before, that you have a conflict of interest. Now, it's a matter of discussion what that can come to mean. Whether you have a financial conflict of interest or not, I don't know, but there is an appearance of a conflict of interest. And in the best interest of the town, that I ask you to recuse yourself on. Now, you decided not to, and decided to become disorderly in a meeting. I'm sorry that happened, but that's the way things happen sometimes. I'm also sorry for the fact that there is a division that has caused a schism between the council and its members, or between the town and its council members, or whatever that schism is. The schism is there nonetheless, and it's become more and more apparent that that schism is not going to be rectified anytime soon. So, calling for censure, okay, fine. That's fair game. But I think you're going a little too far. We still have the town's business to attend to. And if you would like to attend to the town's business, we can continue with our agenda. Beyond that, I'm trying my best to make things happen in a positive way for our town. I always have, and I always will. But it's very difficult sometimes, and there are disagreements. And And without discussion, those disagreements continue to escalate and elevate. And here we are. And, I've asked you about comments on the agenda items in the consent agenda, and I get nothing. I've asked you for the questions you have for Mr. Hall, and I get nothing. You sent me a note with no questions. It was just a bunch of statements. I don't know what to ask Mr. Hall. You have repeatedly asked for things, but I don't have the consensus of the council to put them on an agenda. And until I have a consensus of the agenda, that is what the ordinance says that we are supposed to do, is have a consensus. When there are 3 or more councilors in consensus, I don't have that consensus. I haven't had that consensus. So the agendas as you see them are the agendas that I have made up based upon what I have received and what has been generally traditional. Now, if you want to make all kinds of accusations in your motion and statement there, please, by all means, proceed.
Are you finished?
Yes.
Okay, I have a couple rebuttals to that. In a public procedure, here is a document that Mr. Bassett used to read all the time, and a highlighted portion of that says, members of the governing body may conduct their own research. Well, let's start off. New Mexico requirements for legislative procedure differ from a quasi-judicial procedure in several important aspects. Members of the governing body may conduct their own research into the proposed ordinance. They may consult with members of the public outside the meeting, and they may advocate for personal opinions and or those of constituents. The concern is that this hearing be fair in form and substance. So what I was doing was I was advocating for a constituent who sent me an offer that had never been brought to the governing body. For that I was asked to be removed. I do not think that was fair. The other part of that is in the municipal pocket guide, it says any new items not appearing on the agenda may be discussed but not acted upon at a meeting. The other part of consent agenda is these items may be grouped on the agenda or marked with asterisks. If there is any member of the governing body wishes to discuss a particular item on the consent agenda, then it should be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. That is what we have always done in the past. That is all I have asked for. I know you don't understand my questions. Nobody here understands my questions except for Mr. Hall, the wastewater operator, which is who I keep asking to have available to answer these questions. I have sent questions to Juan and Carla, neither of who have the expertise to answer my questions. And so until I can get my questions answered, I cannot ethically approve a report that to me has invalid information on it. How can we output more from our sewer every month than we take in? That makes no sense to me. And so I need to have those things explained.
Now there is a question. That would have been a question, Councilor.
That I would like. Do you have the answer?
I don't have the answer, but I can certainly relay that question to Mr. Hall. But that's not what I received.
Okay, I have the floor right now.
You do.
And my concern is that I have questions that cannot be answered by the people in this room. I need an expert. I have continually asked over and over and over. If you would allow us to remove minutes and for discussion, you will see that back on October 14th, I was promised when these third quarter meeting minutes report came out that there would be a wastewater available in November, operator available to discuss it in November. That still has not happened. We are now in February, and still I have no information. You know, you and Commissioner Hawley both tend to blame us for the consent agenda and nothing getting approved. If you would be willing to pull pull things for discussion so that we can have information. Maybe not everything is going to get approved, but some of it would. But the fact is, you're holding that up. All I'm asking is for fair and equal treatment for all members of the governing body and for doing the people's business. I provided a lot of training information to help us move forward in a way that possibly we can learn to get along and do maybe not every piece of business that's going to be very controversial, but 90% of what we do is just things that need to get done, which we could do if I have the proper information to be able to make an informed decision and vote. That's all I'm asking for. Is there any other, Council Hamil, do you have discussion?
I do. As you were talking about consent agenda, I have my little pocket guide here, and I looked, and it does say, I don't know why we, no one ever brought this up before. I guess we always need to go back to our procedures, but it says if any member of the governing body wishes to discuss a particular item, it should be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. And so, Mr. Abrams, you talk about a schism, but as I think through what's been happening here, let's just think about it. Well, if you and governing body member Holly would allow items to be removed from the consent agenda for discussion, we would discuss and we would vote, and there wouldn't be a schism, right? It's kind of simple. If I'm asking since November for certain agenda items, and I know that Commissioner Abraham has asked for items as well, and you all would allow it to come to the public meeting to do the public's business, to inform the public, to let the public have input, there wouldn't be a schism. So, even we've been asking on approval of the agenda, and I will ask again tonight, to allow public comment, as in the town's 20-year history we always have, and as well commissioner comments. And you guys have been denying that since November. Well, if you wouldn't deny that for some unknown reason, there wouldn't be a schism. So, these are just logical things that have been done in the town's history for 20 years that now you are denying. And it doesn't really make any sense why you're being stubborn about it. So, I agree that if some of these things, you guys can be more flexible moving forward with the agenda, with discussion, with respectfully letting each person have the floor, and taking turns and going through for proper debate, then I think that we could work through a lot, right? That's just common sense. I just wanted to address Commissioner Hawley's comment about not having a full commission or full governing body, and that is true. And ever since last year, I've been requesting to have an appointment, and I've also been requesting that since we're now deemed complete under commission manager, and if you don't know the statute, I highly recommend you read it. It states that as soon as it's filed with the Secretary of State, we're deemed complete. Our reorganization is deemed complete. We are a commission manager form of government now. So while there will be an election in the future and all the governing body members need to run, we still need to have a full governing body. And so I agree with that, and I've been requesting that on the agendas. It keeps getting ignored and denied. Also, you mentioned, you're not sure what was illegal. Well, there's many examples throughout all of those whereases that things are illegal or not done in accordance with our resolutions and ordinances and state statutes. Just one example was only allowing 2 meetings of the past 6 that we were supposed to have. So according to state statute, again, so you have to look at what's legal, we are required to meet twice a month. And if we're going to cancel meetings, we have to have 3 members of the governing body to approve that, okay? And so we provided all of that information back in December, yet we only had 2 meetings. So there's many problems with the way things are being done procedurally. Maybe some of it's just not knowing, but I would really appreciate it that when we do provide something, that it's respected, and listened to, and not automatically assigning malintent to us, but just listening to the concerns and being flexible with agenda items. Right now, the only business that's allowed, Mayor Pro Tem, is your business, honestly, because in violation of Resolution 2004-07, which you operated under for 14 years now, an individual counselor can add items, and they can only be removed with that individual's permission, period. It's been verified by all the prior mayors, except Keating, by the prior counselors. They've all said, they've even come into this room and said it. So, you don't have to have the majority. So right now, if there's any business that's not being done, it's only your business that's being looked at. And when we try to speak in meetings or even under calendar, I've just been railroaded right over, and you adjourn the meeting on top of me while I'm trying to speak, or discussion happens, and each person is not allowed the floor. And so if there's a schism, I think you need to kind of look at your own behavior too, and be willing to be flexible. The other issue that I see that is really critical, that I want to get the point across to people, is this is an interesting time in Edgewood's history, right? We just had the community come out, and almost 70% of them wanting this change in government. Well, I've been asking for agenda items to update them on the commission manager transition, on operating under commission manager, on the districting. The only thing we know right now is that the clerk was reaching out to research and polling. Well, there's a lot of steps to be taken, between now and when we have to call for the election. A lot. And the public needs to be able to have input. And right now, for some unknown reason, you guys are not even letting them speak in public comment. I mean, if you don't like what they have to say, maybe you feel bullied. I heard you say, Mr. Abrams, you feel bullied by the public. I mean, that's just part of listening to the public and their opinions and views, right? So it goes along with the job of an elected official. You're not going to make everybody happy, but we have to listen. So I think that there's, a lot that could be done as well, just on your side, and being flexible, allowing these things to be properly debated, to move toward a constructive solution under commission manager. I am.
Governing body member Haldy, do you have any comments or further discussion?
No, I don't.
Governing body member Abrams? No? Okay, my final comment would be that I would like to apologize to the public and to each and every one of you governing body members. I know we can do better than this. And I know we used to work together under previous administrations. And I know we can do the public's business. I know that most of these things are not controversial. I'm asking that we look at in a future agenda item, talk about the consent agenda, what we want on there, what we do not. Other than that, that is my final comment. else has any other comments or discussion, I would move to take a vote. Hearing none,
Are you,
Mr. Abrams, I asked you, no, not you, Counselor, Commissioner Jaramillo asked you, how do you vote on the motion to censure Mayor Pro Tem?
I vote aye.
Governing body member Holly, how do you vote?
Nay.
And I myself, governing body member Abraham, vote aye. There are 2 votes in the affirmative and 1 in the negative. The affirmative vote has it, and the motion is carried. Commissioner Abrams, you have been censured for the...
Mr. Czar?
Excuse me, Councilor Abram. You have introduced and attempted to pass a censure resolution, but it hasn't appeared on the agenda.
Are you talking to me or to
Okay,
Abrams?
Councilor Abram, you attempted to put this on, and it's a resolution, and resolutions have to be on the agenda.
It is actually a privileged motion, which is urgent or important matter unrelated to pending business, according to Robert's rules.
But you styled this, and you drafted it as a resolution. And a
I did, but I
resolution
never
is a
called it.
But you did. Did you say be it resolved? I mean, it takes the.
Oh, okay. And I
Okay,
did
so
call
what
a
I'm saying
resolution.
is that agendas and under the Open Meetings Act, there has to be an item on there. And it's so that people can comment on it, that there isn't surprise and things of that nature. So, you can call for the vote, but I have some very serious questions about its validity.
Okay. Well, the vote is...
Commissioner Abraham, may I say something? A friendly amendment to remove the word resolution. And also, from what limited knowledge I have of Robert's rules, I understand that this is more of a disciplinary type of thing, that it's not an agenda item itself, and that these types of motions can be passed at any point during the meeting. And I've read, and seen examples of that in the past where this is something that comes up. Censuring comes up.
Councilor Jaramillo, I'm just not certain that you can all of a sudden discipline a member of the governing body without putting it on the agenda properly in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. Not saying that you can't, that ultimately a member cannot be disciplined. But it has to follow a process, and it has to go on the Open Meetings Act, so that that individual or the public is entitled to see what this topic is going to be. It alerts people, it alerts members of the governing body,
Right.
and which is the purpose behind the Open Meetings Act and the requirement of the agenda being set in place, 72 hours in advance.
Did you advise Mayor Pro Tem Abrams that same advice at the last meeting when he tried to do the same?
I was not here at that meeting, and I don't believe that a representative of the firm was here. And I did not advise him.
So your advice would apply in both scenarios, I would assume?
My advice is on putting something on an agenda like this. That's what I'm speaking
Mr. Czar, I have a question.
to. Sure.
If we're not allowed to put items on the agenda, how would you recommend I put this on for the next meeting?
My understanding of and I may be wrong because is
discussion and action. Because it says later in the resolution that only that member can take it off. So if it took multiple members to put it on, it would take multiple members to take it off. So it's always been interpreted differently than it's being interpreted under this administration.
I can look into that. I can look into that for the governing body.
Thank you.
Provide you an answer that Mayor Pro Tem has.
Thank you. And I would like to postpone this censure until we can have it properly noticed and considered at a future meeting. I would still ask for an apology for the behavior I received at the previous meeting.
Your apology, you'll accept it as given.
I accept your apology. And I feel like I need one from you too, Ms. Holly, because you also voted to have me removed.
I still stand by that motion, Counselor. I felt you had put the town in jeopardy with your interaction with a potential purchaser of the town property.
I'm sorry you feel that way. Okay, Mr.
now we
Mayor Pro
move on.
Tem, I give the meeting back to you.
We move on with approval of this evening's agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I have a concern about this evening's agenda, only for item 6B.
Point of order, could we get the motion and second first before we go to discussion?
Okay. I make a motion to approve this evening's agenda, removing item 6B.
I will second. And then I need to discuss. So,
Discussion?
you made the motion. Go ahead.
Okay, my discussion is to Mr. Czar. I have questions about the proceedings of how we're doing this. We previously had accepted an offer last year on Town Hall, and we did this very differently. We went into closed session to discuss the offer, the only offer we had. We came out of closed session and made a decision to accept that offer. At that time, we then called for a public hearing, which should have been later the next month, but because of COVID, it was postponed. But eventually, we called for a public hearing, and then on the ordinance that's had the information that had been accepted. And so I'm just a little bit, this public hearing has not been noticed since December 25th. It was noticed with different information. We're now attaching to this packet a blank ordinance, and we have still yet to decide or discuss which offer we want to accept.
Mayor Pro Tem, may I respond? Thank you. Councilor Abraham, okay, what you have, and there, I was, at some point, I would have gotten to this in the meeting, but, you have an ordinance because it is blank. It is, I think that presents a procedural problem for the council to go into, adopt any ordinance and like, fill in the blank. I don't believe that you can do that. You have to have in there, you have to have the statute, which is section 3-54-1 of the New Mexico statutes 1978 compilation, states that, you know, basically you have to have the terms of the sale or the lease. Okay, it could be a lease, but look at the terms of the sale, the appraised value, the time and manner of payments on it, the amount of it. You know, you would also, you have to really have who's it being sold to. You know, ideally you would have a contract that's attached to it that would be that's really being approved. Here are the terms, and yes, it's subject to referendum, but presuming everything goes by and the ordinance does take its effect after 45 days or after a referendum, then everyone would know, and that's the purpose of the public hearings, that people know ahead of time. And so if it's blank, I think that it's not proper, you shouldn't act on it. And you're raising something a little bit sooner, but that's what I would advise this body is to don't act on it. Because there are some other things and I mean, when it gets to the discussion point, I certainly would like to talk to the governing body about the sale of this property and what I believe are the correct procedures that you have to take, and you have to make choices. And maybe you're not going to make those choices tonight, but at least outline those choices for you so that you can do, you know, what the governing body can take the appropriate action on the property.
Right. So your recommendation is then that we have the discussion, consideration, and action, item 6A and 6B?
Well, 6B, I would say, I mean, you can hold a public hearing if you want, but I mean, you're going to hold a public, I mean, you can accept comment from the public, but if, no matter how you're going to sell this property, and there's two ways of doing it. One is through a private sale, which is what was brought to the governing body, I don't know if last month or whenever, that's a private sale. What was done before where the deal fell through last year, that was also a private sale. Private sales are acceptable under the law. The other method is to have actually it's a bid, and it would go to the highest bid, and the council would have to decide on what are the terms of the bid. And basically, it goes at that point to the highest bidder, but it still has to go through, it still has to be adopted as an ordinance, as the private sale does. And it's still, if it's over $25,000, that actually it will be, because the appraised value is over $25,000, it will still be subject to the referendum procedures. So those are the two methods that are done. And kind of what the council came up with at the last thing, sort of a hybrid of them, and in my opinion, it's not proper. So that's why, you know, maybe the discussion will be a good thing, and then the council can figure out which direction it wants to head.
Okay. Question on that?
Yes?
So, I guess I just wasn't aware that it was private because we had listed the property. So it was listed with a realtor,
Yes.
not in the very beginning, but then, you know, now later. So, is it true that it can be listed and put out there to the public asking for, you know, offers and bids and
Yeah.
still be private?
Yeah, I mean, it's a private type of sale. You're essentially, I mean, what you're doing, Counselor, is you're saying to the public, we have a piece of property. It's basically surplus. Because the council at some point in the past, I believe, directed the administration, maybe last year or the year before, to let's get the property sold. And okay, so there's different ways you can do it. So it's for sale. People become aware of it, and you can entertain a private sale. In other words, there could be reasons why price is certainly an important thing. Like the highest bid is sure, that is one factor, but the other factors are is this better, is this a better fit, is it, sometimes municipalities sell things for development purposes. And there will be a larger thing behind that development, and they will want to sell it to a given individual because of a plan that, that the municipality is in agreement with, and it's done through a private sale. Now, that's why, as if you will, a safeguard, the statute does allow for a referendum on petition in this state. So, if enough residents of the town decide, well, we don't like this, or we don't like this, they can file a petition,
Right.
and then there would have to be action taken on it. But it's, no, I mean, there's two ways of doing it, and I would say no to the fact that it was listed with a realtor, because you're gonna have, my understanding with just even the two interested parties here, there are different things that they maybe are looking for. One is a higher price, one is not contingent. I mean, these are the factors that they're not quite, apples and apples. And so the governing body needs to ultimately figure out what is it that you want to do. I mean, if it's just simply price and you want to throw it up for price, then okay, then the best way to do that is going to be through a bid to the public, because there could be other people.
So
But
listing
a
it.
private sale is like, here's something, here's what, it's just two different ways of doing things, and it's going to be your decision as to which is the best way to go about doing this of those two. You want the
Yeah, I
private sale,
understand.
if you don't want the private sale, if you prefer to say, I want to get the most money that we can, you're going to have to want to have conditions that are safeguards to that. But whoever is bidding on that would then thereafter have to be, you're all bidding on the same thing. You don't get to say, well, I want to do this, but I'm doing this, but I'll give you a higher price. It all has to be the same, but it's your job, the council, to decide on that.
And so
what
what
are those
cons-
terms going to be?
What constitutes a public sale if it's not listing it to the public with a realtor?
Well, no, this says, the statute says, the municipality of a public sale is held. The bid of, and I'm reading from the statute,
Sure.
the bid of the highest responsible bidder shall be accepted unless the terms of the bid do not meet the published terms and conditions of the proposed sale, in which event the highest bid that does meet the proposed or the published terms and conditions shall be accepted, provided, however, municipality may reject all bids.
Right, so that seems like a public sale that you're reading.
Yeah, that's what
And
that's what they mean by
essentially,
public.
we received bids.
I know, but
You know.
but if you're saying, if kind of the direction of the council, number one, you have out there currently a resolution or an ordinance actually that has an offer that, and I'm not exactly sure if it was postponed or tabled, but I would suggest that it be acted on one way or the other, and that's, if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass. Then you move on to whatever you're going to do. And if you want to have a public sale, then it's open to not only the two interested parties, but there could be someone else in the meantime for this law. And it may not. And you may just get one person. Or you may get two, or you may get
What is our paid?
Yeah, the mayor, council, Mayor Pro Tem, can we
Yes, let's
take a quick recess?
Let's take a recess until we can get our connection back. Our connection, unfortunately, is not as solid as it needs to be.
So we'll come back in session.
The motion, yeah. Do we have sound?
Can the public hear us?
Yes.
Probably good. Okay. Okay.
you're asking my opinion, yeah, I don't think that I would rather remove 6B. I would remove that because it's just not in proper order to do it, but leave 6A in there so that we can discuss more what needs to be done at that time. It's probably going to be a rehash of what I've already said to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve this evening's agenda omitting item 6B.
Mayor Pro Tem, I also mentioned that I had items, so I want to make a motion to add public comment on any topic and commissioner comments as well.
And I will defer to our attorney, but I think because we've had this published as it is, that might not be a good thing to add because of the Open Meetings Act.
Yeah, and I know that Councilor Abraham.
Comment on that? We do have a public comment specific to the sale of Town Hall as a discussion item 4. So I'm sure we will hear from the public.
There is a reference, I should have marked it, that basically states that as far as public comment and governing body comments, that they are allowed, even if not those specific areas on the agenda. Plus, I would add that it's in violation of our established practices and of our operating resolution 2020-12. But it is allowed. It is allowed to add. There's even a lawsuit that occurred that I was reading the other day where a county commission had disallowed public comment, and the court upheld that because of the long practice that they were allowed to comment. So regardless of open meetings not requiring public comment. So I'm not going to be able to find it right now, but it's here somewhere.
Well, it's my understanding from what I read in the Pocket Municipal Guide that as long as it's a discussion only item, and we're not taking any action, then we can discuss it. We typically had an area where it was just discussion only from, like I've been trying to get information that I received from the previous Parks and Rec manager. I've been trying to get just discussion about that. How can we get 3 commissioners to agree to anything if we can't discuss it in a public meeting? To put it on an agenda is where I see the counselor comment deficit. Is that if we could bring it up and talk about it, we could then decide, the mayor pro tem would then kind of have an idea if we were interested in moving this forward or not.
Are we talking about a particular item on the agenda? Or are you saying,
Well, there used to be an item on the agenda called matters from council, matters from mayor, matters from clerk, matters from different people, and at that time, we could bring up discussion items.
it isn't on, however, and are these particular items that the motion of Councilor Armijo is directed to Councilor Armijo? Is a particular item on the agenda that you are asking to?
Just to hear from the public in general and the governing body members again, and I would appreciate matters from the clerk being on there again as well. We do have a higher on the agenda as well, but in my viewpoint, the public should just be able to come in and give us feedback on anything they want, their roads, their, you know, whatever.
You're talking about it, I mean, it's not on the agenda. The council can choose to add it if they want to, onto it, to public comment at the end or the beginning or whatever.
Mhm.
That's something that the council can do. You do have discussion item, public comment for item 4, going forward. Public comment specific to the town hall. The action item that would follow it would be basically a similar kind of document. So I don't know. I mean, the council can add something. You can add a spot that it has. If the council wants to do.
And that's, I mean, this is the published agenda, we can actually add something to the agenda, I've never.
I mean, a public comment. A general public comment, I've seen it done, you know, I mean.
So that's my motion. I don't think we have a second yet.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to add a general public comment to the agenda. Where would we add that?
Put it at the end, we put it at the beginning. Or I mean, you know, at some point, I put it somewhere.
I can amend my motion to have public comment as item 3 and commissioner comments as item 4.
And I guess we've got a motion and a second to add something to the agenda as item 3, moving all other items down. And how do you vote, Councilor Harmia?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
I will vote aye, although I do want to make a comment. I have been opposing that just because this has been a posted agenda, and I didn't feel that we had the right to add anything to a posted agenda with public, you know, not being aware that we're adding something that they might have.
A public, yeah, and I understand, it's, you're adding a public comment. It's not, there's no action being really taken.
Okay, I'll vote
Yeah,
aye.
so that's, I mean, you can add it, it's what you're allowing people to comment.
Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Sounds like we have
You?
an action item, or item 3, where we're going to have public comment and comment from councilors. We've kind of had comment from councilors running right now, so I wonder if this is going to be redundant, but I'll go along with it. We still have a motion and a second on the approval of the agenda with that addition. Do I hear any further discussion? Hearing none, how do you vote, Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Councilor Harmia?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Mayor
Mayor
Pro
Pro Tem, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda, removing item A, B, C, D, and M for discussion.
I will second.
A motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, removing items A, B, C, D, and M. Counselor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. What are we discussing, Counselor Abraham?
Okay, on the meeting minutes for October 14th, I would just like to bring forth the fact that I was told that when the third quarter numbers came out, we would have a wastewater plant operator available to answer questions. And we should now also have the fourth quarter report out already. And so I just would like to clarify that that was my comment and request that it be fulfilled. The November 2nd meeting is an invalid meeting, chaired by someone who had been removed from office, so I feel like it cannot be approved. The December 23rd meeting, on the last page, it fails to note my request for a closed session to discuss multiple offers that I would like added in there. I think that was very important. And on the January 13th meeting, I would like to see it reflected that Counselor Abraham stated she did receive additional information that was provided to John Abrams and Juan Torres on December 22nd, and that I would like to share in closed session. I would also like to add any reference to the fact that I was removed and prevented from attending that closed session. The final thing that I have for discussion is the wastewater report, where once again I have concerns that if you look at it, the treated effluent queued to the lagoon is consistently higher than the total inlet gallons received. And I do not understand how we can consistently put out more wastewater than we're taking in. I could see us not putting out as much as we put in. It was leaking somewhere, but, and I would also like to find out the status of, are we ever going to be able to reuse that water on the roads? And what is the status of our permit that should have been renewed in September? So, those are my questions, and I would like to request a wastewater operator available to answer them.
Okay, is there any other discussion of those 5 items? So having those 5 items removed, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Counselor Holly, how do you vote?
I think we did, didn't we?
Did we vote on it? I don't think we did.
No, we didn't vote, we had a first and a second. And then we started discussion.
Okay, sorry.
So Counselor Holly, again, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Counselor Jaramillo?
Aye.
And Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. We have approved a great group of things on the consent agenda, and we will take the other ones for consideration and bring those back.
Thank you.
The action item we have next on the agenda is, well, actually, no, it's not an action item. It's a public discussion. And I suppose at this point, I need to ask the clerk if he would help me in taking names for discussion. We also have a discussion further along, specifically on the sale of town hall. And I would ask individuals to please let us know which item that they are going to discuss, whether it's items of a general nature or if it is the sale of the town hall, so that we can have that discussion further along. I know this is going to cause a little confusion. So, okay,
Hello?
I can hear.
Yeah, I'm having, I'm over the line here. Are we doing the sale of the town hall?
And who is this, please?
I can't hear anything.
I think there are two phones in the same room, and you're getting feedback.
Okay, I can get the feedback one for now. So I think, I don't even try to.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Who is
I
this?
can hear you. Okay, am I alive?
I think this is Mr. Seegers. I
I'm on the
recognize
phone,
your voice.
too.
I can't understand anything you're saying.
Call. You cannot understand you at all. I haven't been able to hear anything in this meeting to this point, but I am assuming we're at the public hearing.
No, general public comment, I believe. I think this is public comment on general matters, I'm pretty sure.
I can't understand what you're saying.
Well, I'd rather speak in the public hearing and donate whatever time I have in this category to Jerry Powers.
I agree, this is Samina.
This is Gail Smith, and I agree also. This is Jeremy Toon, and I agree as well.
This is Jerry Powers. If you can hear me, I'd like to speak, but I'd like you to acknowledge that you heard, because we can't understand anything on this end of the line.
Yes.
I can hear you.
I just heard.
What
Who's that that said I can hear you?
Gail Smith.
This is Ray Seegers, and the next person is?
Samina Price?
I think we're all talking to each other. I don't think they're hearing anything we're saying in the public meeting.
I think you're right.
I've been
We,
trying for 20 minutes to even get to hear them, and it's not, this system isn't working.
we,
I know, this is a horrible background.
we can hear everything you are saying.
Is someone taking the names for
I can hear
public
somebody on
comment?
TV.
I am trying to take your names down. However, it would be better if we could have one person speak at a time. So far, I have
Yes, somebody
Ray
has
Seegers.
the TV on in the background.
So far, I have Ray Seegers wanting to talk about Town Hall and wanting to donate some time to Jerry
Oh.
Powers. I have 3 other people wanting to donate time to Jerry Powers. Who else would like to speak?
Okay, Samina Price? John Abrams, this is Carol Hopper.
John Abrams, Evelyn.
And my name is Karen Kaiser.
And my name is Gail Smith. Did you get me?
Yes.
Yes, Gail.
Okay, good.
I'm Samina Price.
My name is Linda Wheeler.
My name is Jeremy Toon. This is Jerry Powers. You can hear me.
I hear you.
This is Adrian Terry. This is Ray Seegers.
Okay, Ray, we got you already, and Mr. Powers, we got you as well.
Mr. Abrams, did you get Linda Burke?
Linda Burke?
Thank you.
Sure.
I did not hear that last person. Is there anyone
that
else
was
who
really quick.
wishes
I'll
to
give you in a
speak?
second. We can ask one more, but is there anyone else who would like to speak at public comment?
Did you get my name wrong? I just want to.
Okay, so
And Sabina Price.
Mayor Pro Tem, may I kind of read my list really quick?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I have Ray Seegers, Sabina Price, Gail, Jerry, all donating 2 minutes to Jerry Powers. I have Cheryl Humberts, Linda Wheeler, Jeremy Toon, Adrian Terry, and Linda Burke.
Was there an Evelyn?
There was an Evelyn.
And
We're only donating minutes for the second discussion.
My name is Linda Wheeler, and I give my minutes to Jerry Powers.
okay, Evelyn,
And did you get Karen Kaiser one?
yes, Karen, I do have you, sorry.
Thank you.
And Jeremy Toon is going to be assigned to Jerry Powers as well.
Juan, I just want to say on the record that this meeting is not, you cannot hear it. And I've called into every meeting since we've done it this way, and this is the first time I literally cannot hear. I catch every third word of what is being said, whether it's a counselor speaking or the attorney. It is not legible. You can't hear it. It's not audible. Right. So I think this is going to be problematic, given that the Independent is not live streaming.
Okay, I will try and adjust the sound.
Up with it tonight, and I'm hearing people's televisions. I'm hearing feedback of everything I say, which might be part of us as participants. Maybe after each person speaks, they would mute themselves, and it will make it more audible. But this has not worked tonight. You guys have been talking for an hour. I bet I heard 10 minutes of it.
I think you can hear it. I agree completely.
Suggestion, could we?
Mr. Torres,
people by
this is
name
Peter
and
Smolinski.
everyone else?
Okay, I have you, Mr. Selensky.
Who is that last person?
Mr. Selinsky.
For those of you on the phone, just so you know, Juan is adjusting the sound.
You guys have counseled with the adjustment.
Thank you.
Test, this is Counselor Abraham.
Test.
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 See if that's better.
Maybe just ask Karen. Karen, is that better?
Yes, yes, it is. It is audible.
And how about let's check with our attorney? Okay.
All right. First person up, I guess, is Mr. Jerry Powers, who has several other people's 2 minutes,
14 minutes.
14 minutes.
So I don't think I'll need all that time, and I'll yield back whatever I don't use to them if you could let us know about that one when I'm hearing.
Yes.
I think my first comment is I don't see how
Mr. Powers.
people can make informed.
Mr.
Yes.
Powers, 1 second, please.
Muted.
Okay, Mr. Powers, are you there?
No.
Mr. Powers, you there? I could have sworn he was 8. Mr. Powers, you there?
Unmuted.
Okay, let's try that again. Mr. Powers, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it okay to proceed?
Yeah, let's try it now. Hopefully we won't get too much feedback with everyone else's phones turned on.
Okay. So my first comment is I agree with what Karen Kaiser said about the sound. Everything that's gone before this point, I heard maybe every third or fourth word, which means that this meeting is not OMA compliant. They should have stopped the meeting and fixed the sound before they continued according to OMA AG's guidance. I don't see how people can make informed comments about the subject matter tonight because we haven't heard most of what's happened in any of it. So I'm going to take my comments in the dark, but I'm going to do it under protest because this meeting has violated OMA on that grounds. So that's another problem added on to many other problems with the way this has been handled. Last week's meeting was atrocious, and the first time in Edgewood's history that a counselor has been ejected using police powers to do it for something that she was accused of that wasn't even true. So, as I understand it, there were more than just one offer that had been signed by Mayor Pro Tem Abrams. And I can't for the life of me understand why those offers would have been hidden from the public and from the counselors who we elected to represent us in these matters. And I can't understand how you would expect the public to not lose complete faith and confidence in that this is an honest process when from all the information we've been able to glean so far, we accepted a lower price offer. Even if it wasn't lower price, it was apparently, it looks like it was steered to one party, which means that the other party or parties, because we still don't know how many offers there have been made, have been treated unfairly and most likely could result in a lawsuit against the town for unfair treatment. So, the other problem that I have with this is I understand that the public hearing is going to go on tonight, but the statutes require that an ordinance be published. This ordinance was, not this ordinance, but the previous one that was accepting the other offer was published some weeks ago with a different date for the meeting that didn't come off. Then the meeting was postponed and canceled, and now we're in a different meeting date altogether with an ordinance that it has blanks in it that doesn't look anything like the original publication that might have been handed out. It was handed out pursuant to the publication notice. So this entire process has failed, mostly due to a lack of transparency and trying to shut out the public and the elected representatives that we have elected to make sure that we get a fair shake. It's the duty of the elected governing body to make sure that we get the most for the public properties that are sold. And there's no way to know that the public to know, and certainly not the councilors or governing body members to know that we're getting a fair shake with the offers being hidden. So, you stop public comment, you stop councilor comments, now you stop video recording these meetings. The sound is so garbled and horrible that we can't even understand it. I don't know anything else that you can do that would shut out the public more than you have on these matters. And you're just asking for trouble. People are up in arms, they're suspicious of the process, and rightfully so. So I would like to see transparency in these matters, and many other governing bodies, most other governing bodies accomplish this. If the current mayor pro tem can't, I would say you're doing a disservice to this town. You should step down and let one of the other governing body members that can do it properly do it to restore the faith and confidence of people of Edgewood that they're getting a fair shake and that they're getting a representation by their elected officials rather than throwing them out of the meeting. So if this is going to be an open meeting violation, I'd like to hear from Mr. Zara if that doesn't invalidate the entire results of this meeting, since it's not an open meeting. We couldn't hear anything that happened before Juan did something to the sound. And we were at one point we were all talking to each other, but couldn't hear a thing coming out of the public meeting. So those are my comments. I would appreciate it if you would take that seriously, because you're not going to get any good results from the public or favorability from the public in behaving this way and keeping everything tight and closed, hidden, and throttling the input of the public. Thank you.
Point of order. I do believe he's right. Mr. Zara, could you please weigh in on that, since if it does come back, if the public can't hear it according to the AG's COVID rules, the meeting would be declared invalid. So how do we proceed now?
You can start again. I mean, that's the only thing that would make any kind of sense, is you can just start going through it again if you want. I mean, perhaps some of the discussion that we will have at another item, but that's you have tried to do that, and that'll be about it. Although I don't know how you could have been aware of that.
Would it be acceptable to continue through the agenda, but then pick up the front part at the next meeting? I don't know, because it was put out to the public that.
Mr. Torres, is our version of the audio clear? The one that you record, that you put on the town website?
I believe so. I believe this is going to be clear, but my understanding of what the AG rules are is if the public can't hear the meeting as it's happening, then the meeting will basically be declared invalid, and we'll have to come back and do it again. So,
Well, we've heard from several people that they can't hear it, and I don't see that.
I hear Juan's voice very well, but Mr. Abrams, I don't hear yours.
I said that we have heard from several people now that they cannot hear and have not been able to hear, so I don't know where we go from here.
That was.
Could we recap the meeting, what we've done so far? And
No,
stay in
I don't
compliance?
think so.
No? Okay.
So you'd have to go back and
We can now hear you.
you would have to.
I can hear you now.
You'd have to go back and,
Yeah, now it's completely audible.
out of an abundance of caution, Mayor Pro Tem, that would be the remedy, is to go back and do those items again, perhaps. And
Mayor Pro Tem needs to speak up, though.
that would be my advice, is to go back and just do the ones that are on the agenda. And it may not take that long to do.
Well, we can certainly
I'm
back.
still not hearing.
We can certainly back up to the beginning and start over. I don't. I think it would be an interesting adventure. I think it's the first time I've had a do-over.
Adrian Terry, I still can't hear what's going on in the meeting.
We need to just postpone. We need to table.
The only person I can hear clearly is Councilor Jaramillo and the clerk.
We need to just
Pretty
end
much
it.
same here.
Okay, it is now, I think, the consensus of the council to adjourn this meeting as we don't have the ability to serve the public according to the Open Meetings Act. The public cannot participate, so this meeting is adjourned.